Ladies and lentil beans, today is July 19, 2016, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 302, where we learn to be better artists. My name is Kienan Lafferty, and today we are going to be doing another joint study session on hair. Look at this awesome hair. You guys have been requesting this so many times, but fear not, because we are going to be getting into it today. We're going to be having ourselves a good time with that. But first, before we get into the actual tutorial, you can take a stroll down the lovely lane. So by going to this link right here, KNKL fan art, and then clicking this awesome secret link. Shh, don't tell anybody. Click on this thing that says see all, and then, whoa, look at all this awesome art that you guys have been submitting. Thank you guys so much for submitting your art. And if you would like to like the page and get featured on the show yourself, yeah, just type in that tiny URL/KNKL fan art. Really like that Rayman Legends piece, by the way. Really awesome photo study. I noticed you guys are doing a lot more photo studies. That makes me so freaking happy. Speaking of photo studies, that's going to be a perfect segue into what we're doing today. And that is, of course, hair. But, oh wait, that's just a blank canvas. Okay, well, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to have to go to google.com and find ourselves a nice, sexy lady with long, flowing brown hair. Hey, there we go. That's a nice one. Let's use that. Now, if only we had a mannequin that was, like, pre-drawn, and then we could add some hair too. Oh, we got that too. All right, cool. We're ready to go. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, guys. So for those of you who don't know, this is a new series. This is basically me teaching you stuff that I know nothing about, or stuff that I can improve upon. I mean, let's get that out of the way. I mean, I am the teacher. I'm the sensei. I know everything, but there are some things that I can improve upon, right? And hair is one of them. So today we are going to focus on doing this. And we've also done another study session on metal. And if you're curious on checking that out, then it is on the YouTube channel. But, yeah, today we're doing hair, so let's go ahead and get into that. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is let's go ahead and dissect, first of all, just how we even set up this mannequin. So, simple stuff, just created my lines there, colored them a little bit with the good old kind of locking mechanism, lock your pixels, and then you can color them whatever freakish color you want. Like, say you want them to be pink, you can do that. So that's how I like to set up my lines, lock them, color them. Put a little mask behind it. Good to go. All right, cool. We got our mannequin head. All right, let's go ahead and quit dilly-dallying. I know you can tell I'm trying to stall, right? I'm trying to stall because I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, so we are going to do our best. What we like to do here on the show is we like to do our best to not use the eyedrop tool. We don't want to grab our colors specifically from this, but rather study them. Study them and ask ourselves questions like, hey, it's interesting how the darkness of this hair, right? It's very, very dark here, but it strangely gets lighter down here. Why is that? Well, it's probably because of the reflected light coming from the sand on this beautiful beach, right? But then also what I'm particularly interested in with this hair is a couple things. And in fact, let's start with this, because here are the things that I know about hair. Let's start with things that we know, things that I know we know. Okay, and that is the banding effect on hair, right? Now, this is akin to drawing a ribbon. If you were to draw a ribbon, I asked you to draw a ribbon, you'd probably do something like this, right? And if I asked you to highlight that ribbon, right? If I asked you to shade that ribbon, you'd do something like this. And notice how when you come to the edges, right? When you come to the edges of the ribbon, you get an effect akin to this, okay? Now see the banding effect. This is the banding effect. And where this happens, okay, and we can actually even kick that up a little bit more, you might notice that this happens a lot in like anime drawings where the girl's hair, you know, has like this really shiny, bright band that goes through it, right? And that is because that actually does happen in hair a lot of the time. So that is something that we do know about. Another thing that really caught my eye here is this hair right here, this strand, how bright and like colorful it gets. Now I'm thinking this is because of two reasons. We also have a banding effect happening right in this area, right there. We're having another band effect. And this is basically the light, or the light of the sun being reflected back at you, right? That is what creates the band. And then the color of the hair is more so like the light passing through it, because I imagine this hair is kind of off the head a little bit, so we're getting a little bit of like a subsurface scattering type of effect going on there. Okay, so those are the things that we know. But the rest is basically going to be all these tiny little details. Like, you can see like all these tiny little strands that go through here, as well as look at like these micro like shines that go through here. This is the kind of stuff that I usually don't put in to my hair, but that's what we're going to be studying today. How to make that look realistic, how to get those micro shines in your hair, make it look really, hopefully, photoreal. And then once you know how to make it photorealistic, then you kind of dial it back, add your own style to it, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. because a lot of you are probably wanting me to do that. So let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so because I cheated and I looked here, right? You can eye drop. I'm okay with you guys eye dropping, but don't, just take note. Take note of what it is. Try your best to, you know, pick your colors by sight, okay? Pick your colors by sight. Okay, so we're going to start with a base mask, okay? So we're going to go ahead and draw on top of this girl's head. We're first going to sketch in our hairline, okay? See, I'm deviating right from the beginning, right? Deviating right from the beginning. So the hairline is going to come down like this. We're basically just going to be copying this entire hair shape, okay? So the hair goes down like this, and you'll notice, you might ask yourself, Keenan, why are you not like taking a dark black color and starting to like draw in hair like this, right? And then like sketching in the strands and yeah, getting a little bit of that in there. Actually, you could. You could do that, technically. Albeit, it shouldn't look like that. It should not look like that. But rather, it should. In fact, yeah, let me teach you guys how to do it that way, because that's normally how I would do it. I wouldn't start just laying down color. I would actually start with lines. So, and that will feed into the very beginning of the lesson, what I want to teach you guys. And that is flow. Okay, because a lot of people will draw hair and they forget about flow. Probably one of the most important things about any piece. All of your lines, especially hair in this case, must have flow. So what I'm going to ask that you guys do is get comfortable with kind of taking your stylus and just letting it glide across. Glide in sort of like these S formations. S formations alongside along your tablet. Because this stuff is very important when you are creating not just hair, but just any sort of like organic features or things that are flowing. It helps with cloth. It helps with, you know, all sorts of like clothing, tabards if you're drawing like some sort of knight in shining armor type thing. But you want to get some flow lines in there. And similar to what I taught you guys about the large, medium, small technique, which is basically my design principle in a nutshell, right? You have your medium, small, and large, right? This is basically representing our thought process as we're going through this. And that is that we want these variable sizes to be appearing throughout the piece. So a good example of that is, hey, look at this right here. Look at this strand or this shape that's going through here. This is a smaller piece. And up here, we have a large piece of hair, or like a large area. And similarly, you could even liken it to the photo. It's actually happening in the photo here too. Because look at all the value changes in this little strand that goes through here. Yet this entire piece up here, yes, it's noisy, but it reads as like one large shape. And so I feel like this type of stuff is just good to keep in mind when you're designing, creating hair. You want to make sure, because here's what you want to watch out for. And that is, be like, okay, we're going to make some flow lines. All right, KNKL showed me how to do this. We're going to make some flow lines. And then you start doing this and that and that and that and that, right? See how the widths of all of these areas are the same? You don't want to do that. You want to stay away from that, okay? So when you make your flow lines, have one really close and then have one a little bit bigger, right? Have one a little bit bigger, kind of going, and make sure you're following the same flow, right? Think of where the crown is. Think of where the crown is, because the hair has to start somewhere. It doesn't just pop out of the side of the head wherever you want it to. It has to start somewhere. And basically that's at the part line, which is happening right here, right in the center of this lovely gal's head. So let's make sure that all of our hair is flowing from that point, right? Make sure that it sticks up a little ways, right? Because we have the forehead here, and then we have the volume of the hair. She definitely uses some good head and shoulders on that. And we got some nice voluminous hair. So we're starting like this. This looks good. And voila, you can begin to see some awesome shapes kind of coming together. A nice design for our hair. So that's step one, okay? Flow and keeping in mind your large, medium, small technique, okay? This is probably one of the coolest design principles that was ever taught to me. And it was taught to me by Iron Stylist, who you guys may know as Michael Marino, formerly of Riot Games. But he was an amazing mentor. I loved him so much, and I still do. And he taught me this awesome thing, and it changed my life. So now I'm teaching you guys, and it's going to change your life, okay? So let's go ahead and continue with this. Okay, just adding in a couple more lines, getting ourselves a good looking feel. One of the things I really like about this hair as well is that it really shows off a good like layering. Like you have this layer of hair, and then you have all this stuff down here, which is kind of being cast in shadow. This is turning into a dark shadow Pokemon, a ghost Pokemon, right? So make sure that we are reflecting that. Okay, cool. So we have a good start. So we've got our lines in there. Let's go ahead and create a layer behind. And let's not use our eyedrop tool. I was about, you almost caught me doing it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal if you do it, okay? It's not that big of a deal. But ideally, I want you guys to learn. I want you to be able to look at that, and then I want you to translate it over. I don't want you to have to rely on, because here's what I don't want you guys to do. I don't want you to I don't want you to have to rely on photos to make your pieces, right? I don't want you to have to rely on that stuff to make the proper color choices, right? You should study and then pay attention to relationships. And then you'll be able to, when you don't have a photo, then you can take the things that you learned from the photo before and put it into your piece, which you don't really necessarily have a reference for. That's the important part of this. That's why we're learning about textures, because we want to be able to replicate this stuff on the fly. Someone asks you to paint some hair. You're like, I already know how to do that. I learned all about it on KNKL 302. 302. All right, cool. So that's looking good. Okay, awesome. We've got our flow lines. So let's begin with what we do know. Let's begin with the things that we do know. And similar to what we did with our metal, we're going to begin laying in our just big colors. We're laying in the big colors here. And we're paying attention to what's happening on these transitions, okay? Paying attention to what's happening on these transitions, specifically right here. Now, here's what I want to show you guys, okay? And in fact, I will eyedrop for this part. So look at this. This is probably something that a lot of people would miss. And that is, do you notice how the hair is going slightly towards like this desaturated blue? Look at that. It's actually becoming a very grayish blue right here. Now, why is that? That is because of the ambient color of the sky. It is reflecting off the very top of the hair. Now, these sorts of subtle details and color changes are what allows your hair to kind of change over from like anime looking to much more realistic. And in fact, a good man once said, the difference between a cartoon and real life is just knowing your reflected lights and your cast shadows, and I would like to also add your ambient lights. So that's exactly what's happening here. We're not going to forget about that. Now, second thing is that we're going to be doing a little bit of a color boomerang here, and that is basically we're going to start desaturated, okay? Pay attention to where this is. See how low and to the left it is? That means that we're dark and desaturated. But notice how once the sunlight starts interacting with the hair, do you see how we're moving up and to the right? We're beginning to saturate. We're beginning to saturate our color. And then once we get to these hot highlights, see how we desaturate again? Isn't that interesting? Like this hottest highlight is like this very mid-tone gray. So what we have happening here is we're starting desaturated, we're going saturated, and then going back to desaturated, creating a boomerang effect, right? And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I did a whole episode on boomerang, and you can click right here to go check out the color boomerang. But this is basically what the whole episode is talking about. Talking about this motion being apparent in a lot of lighting schemes and a lot of materials. Basically the way that things interact with light. There's a lot of boomeranging happening, where you go from desaturated to saturated back to desaturated, okay? So that's what we're going to get in first, okay? We are going to take those colors, we're going to translate it over. We're not going to forget about our ambient light. We're going to make it look hot, make it look sexy, and we're going to love that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this color because I'm cheating. I'm going to grab this color, right? But it is a dark desaturated color. Make sure you pay attention to that. That's the most important part. Okay, and let's go ahead and begin to lay that in. Why is that happening? Why is that happening? Why can't I paint on this? Okay, hang on. I am very special right now because I cannot figure out what I did. Okay, I guess we're just going to put that to multiply. No, that's not going to work. Oh, I know why. It's because I accidentally painted black on there. Okay. Broke my own rule. I broke my own rule and I painted black when I wasn't supposed to. Okay, let's go ahead and fix that. We can just erase this a little bit. Erase that out a little bit. Put that brown back behind there. There we go. We could have sketch lifted it too, but whatever. Okay, anyway, now where were we? Ah, yes, picking proper colors. Picking proper colors. Let's get back to it. Okay, well, that's what I get for eyedropping, okay? No more. No more of that. Okay, so we learned that we do want to go up and or saturate right here, where the light begins to interact with our hair. We want to start going towards this region. Okay, so add a little bit of that in, paying attention to where it actually falls the most. Right? Because I think what's really nice about this is that we have this area of high contrast. And then look, there's like little strands that kind of go down that look like they're kind of capturing a little bit more light, especially like in here, right? As we discussed earlier. Kind of translate that over. That looks good. That looks good. Even down here, right? At this bottom area. Down here, look at that little piece that kind of sticks out and gathers a little bit of that light. I love stuff like that. I love little things like that. So let's make sure that we capture that. Okay? Cool. And you can look at this, and it's already looking pretty dang cool. And that's because we're working with desaturated shadows, and then we're saturating, right? We're creating that natural look. That natural woman look. I'm going to desaturate even more for some of these shadows. I'm going to add some of those in. We should go even darker. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe just a little bit saturated. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. That's what we're looking for right there. Get that. Let's get that dark color in there, right? Get some of that dark, deep color. Actually, let's see what this is. Oh, that's actually very saturated. Very saturated. And it's yellow. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and drop that in. Drop that in and remember it for later. Remember it for later. Okay. Okay, now let's not forget about our... Can you guess where I'm going with this? Why am I going blue? That's right, because of our ambient colors, ladies and gentlemen. Ambient colors. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of that up here. Simulate our skylight. Oh, isn't that awesome how that makes the hair look so much more natural? Let's make it look a lot more natural already. And basically what I want you guys to take away from this is the way that I'm drawing this hair, or the way that I'm painting this, is I want you guys to stay away from getting in there and trying to add too many details too early, right? Like you see this strand right here, and you're like, oh, okay, well that is... okay, so it's kind of like a saturated orange. Yeah, let's just like take that and let's go straight to the OP layer, right? OP meaning we're on the very top, and let's just start like layering in like these things, like lots of little strands, right? And like trying to like add too much detail at the beginning. You shouldn't have to do it this way. Rather, what I'm teaching you guys to do is get your colors on there first. Get your colors on so you can allow yourself to see the relationships and say, that is a nice color palette, right? That's a nice color palette for the hair. And then from there, you're going to begin refining. And then at the very end, then you go in there and start adding all these tiny little particles in, or these tiny little shines, tiny little shines. All right, so enough blabbing. Let's continue. Okay, so we need to desaturate a little bit more as we're going towards the hottest parts of the hair. Okay, so let's add a little bit of those colors in. And this is going to create our band, okay? So we're gonna have a little bit here, a little bit there. I wanna make this a little bit brighter too. So this is gonna give us a little bit more of that anime effect, right? Cool. All right, very good. Very good. We got a little bit of that gray kind of happening in this area too. Let's not forget about that. And then this really cool color. I really love what's happening over here. And I want to eyedrop this and take a look at it. So let's take a look at how this actually compares to, say, over here. What's happening? This is a very saturated part of the hair. And then it is being contrasted as it goes out to the edge by desaturating and lightening. Interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's take this right here. Let's do exactly what was shown there. Let's add some saturation to this hair, specifically over in this area. Let's add some saturation and some darkness to it. So we're going to get something like this. Maybe a little bit more like that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So we have a little bit of saturation. Let's add that in. And then as it goes to the edge, we're going to desaturate. Create that reflected light look. Okay. Let's go and add that in. So see what we're doing here, guys? we're just kind of laying in color. Very similar to what we did with our metal study. See, we've laid in a bunch of different colors, and we're paying attention to, oh, that's interesting that you can have like desaturations up here and saturations down there, and then this reflected light that's happening over on the right side. These are all things that you want to keep in mind as you go forward. But most importantly is most important thing that you take away is the principles, okay? So at this point, I would say, all right, I feel good about this. Let's go ahead and color our lines really quickly, so that way they're a little bit softer. Now I'm going to color the lines like this dark brown. Now the way that I'm going to do this is I'm clicking this magic button right here. Make sure you direct your attention right there. This magical checkerboard. Now what is that going to do? It's going to checkmate your lines to the point where they can't move anymore, and then you can go in there and paint them. Technically, you can paint them whatever color you want. See how I can paint them gray, and it only affects the lines because they're on their own layer. So I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to paint these top lines, right? A little bit more of this gray. I'm softening them up to get them ready for painting, for basically eliminating our lines. Okay, and then down here, I'm going to paint these a very, very dark brown. Okay, right in here. And see how now this begins to, I'm going to actually pay very close attention to this right here. See how it goes to like this very light brown? I'm actually going to paint those colors onto the edges right in here. Okay, give us a little bit more like that type of look. Okay, cool. So now we are ready. Now that we have picked colors that we like, now we can go in there and start refining a little bit more. Refining a little bit more. Okay, so let's get in there. Let's get in there really closely. And I am going to take this entire thing and group it. I'm going to move it over a little bit closer. Okay, so that way we can actually see exactly what we're working with. I'm going to move this ribbon over here. And now we can zoom in a little bit more, and we can get the fine details. Get a few more fine details in there. Okay? So, moving on. Now we are going into what I like to call OP time. This is where we go over top of everything. This is now the overpaint layers. Okay? What you say goes. So now it's very important to go in there and start asking yourself, okay, I want to start adding in these lines. I want to start adding in a few more of these colors, a few more of these hot colors. We're not ready to put in that final noise yet. Not ready. If you thought you were ready for that, you were wrong. Okay, this might be going a little bit longer today, but I'm sure you don't mind that. Okay, now I am going to, I'm going to put in a lighter color right here. Put in a little color right there, a little color right there. One of these things. And again, pay attention to how I'm varying my sizes. I'm keeping that rule in mind. I'm really glad it's right there so you can see it. Large, small, medium. Even with these strands of hair. See how this one is a little bit larger, then I got like a tiny little one right there. Right? Just kind of bringing that up right through there. Okay? Now let me show you guys a cool way to create noise. Or actually, before we do that, let me add in a little bit more of this hot highlight. Right? Because we got to think about that banding effect. Right, so we're going to have something like this. Just a tad bit of that hot highlight right in there. There you go. That's what we're talking about right there. Looks good. Looks good. Okay, so now let's talk about this, what's happening in here, and how you can achieve that effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this color. I'm going to take this darker brown color, and I'm going to begin blending it in a little bit more because I want to tighten up this highlight. I want to tighten up this band effect that's happening. But more so than that, I'm actually going to take this dark color and I'm going to begin running it through, okay? Now this is how you're going to begin to get a little bit more of that realistic approach, right? But again, keep in mind, I'm going through, not making all the lines the exact same space, right? We're having some that are close to each other. The ones that is a little further, some that are close over here. See, that gives you a much more natural look, much more natural. We love natural ladies. Love natural ladies. Even though this thing is photoshopped to heck, this is anything but natural, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue here. So I'm adding in a little bit of this, but I'm keeping in mind, like, I really like these original lines that went through. Even though it's not exactly, like, perfect, like, to what the photo is, I like those lines there. So I want to make sure that I keep those in there. Think of those as like major pieces of the hair that will like kind of lay in, right? And I feel like I could explain that better. So here's another thing that I really like to think about with hair, okay? So that large, small, medium technique, right? But also keep in mind, what I like to think about with my hair is like a semblance of shapes. There's like a bunch of shapes that create this piece, like this piece of hair, right? And because we have this mixture of shapes right here, it is much more interesting to look at than if we were to say, have a bunch of shapes, again, right? That just look like this. If they were all perfectly, spaced out, it starts to look a little monotonous. It's kind of boring. It doesn't look natural, okay? Doesn't look natural. So don't do it, okay? That's what I was getting at. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in this highlight even more. Highlight even more, because I feel like I kind of got carried away with this highlight in the middle here. This is really supposed to be just tiny little flecks that just go through it. So let's go ahead and see if we can add those back in. Okay, and I'm going to make a new layer for this just because I want to make sure I get it right. So let's go ahead and add in our flecks. And I'm going towards yellow. Why, you ask? Because the sunlight is yellow. And it looks good when you do it that way, okay? And that's kind of what I'm seeing there. It looks like it's a very, very bright yellow. Okay, so we have a little bit of something that's happening right here. A little bit of kind of brightness in here. Now here's my personal opinion and personal kind of idea of how I would achieve this. And this is similar to what we talked about with our metal, right? And I'm trying really hard to paint and talk at the same time, and it's hard. It's really, really hard to try to paint and talk at the same time, but I'll do my best. Okay, now what this is that you will go in there and let's say you will add in this white. Let's say you were adding in like straight white into these areas. Now the reason why this might not look so natural is because you are painting straight white, or in this case, like a very bright yellow, onto a dark color. Now what happens when you do this is it creates an effect that doesn't look realistic. However, if we look closely at the hair, if we can zoom in as far as possible, look at what is actually happening in here. There's almost like a pearlescent effect that is happening on this hair that is allowing it to look more natural, okay? Now what is that? What is actually happening there? See the lightest points? It's like up in like this it's like a very bright pink, right? And then very soon after that, we have like this kind of yellowish desaturated brown. And this is all happening in this area. Look, even like as I just kind of click around, a lot of this stuff is very desaturated. A lot of very desaturated grays. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint in some of these whites. I'm going to paint in some of these hot whites. And then what we're going to do, because we put this on another layer, we're going to go in there and we're going to add in some of those kind of transitionary colors around the highlights. Very similar to what we did with our metals, okay? Because this is looking good, but it doesn't look the same. It doesn't look photorealistic. Okay, and that's what we are trying to achieve to the best of our ability today. Okay, so we got some of this, got some of that. Okay, cool. So that's good for step one. Step two is let's create a layer behind that. So just to refresh your memory, so that all those highlights are on one layer. We've created a layer behind it. And what we're now going to do is we're going to introduce our transitionary colors. And we are going to place those behind, or kind of in the same area as our highlights. And watch what happens here. It begins to look more natural, right? Because now we have transitions happening. It's not going from white to straight to the color behind it, right? We're having transition colors. And that is what allows us to achieve a more realistic look. And I'll show you just by comparison once we're done here. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more of this gray in there because it looks like I had a little bit more of that. Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is without the transitionary colors. That's with it. See how that looks much more natural now? At least the colors do. We've got proper colors in place now. We like that. We like that. That's actually looking really nice. So if you ever find yourself in a position where you've done something like this, you've created your hair or laid down the colors, and then you start adding in the highlights, right? And they just look kind of painted on. It looks like white specks, looks like dandruff. Well, you can eliminate that by adding in your transitionary colors behind it. Transitionary colors. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how you do it. Okay, now let's move on to the next thing, which I want to talk about, and that is another really important oversight that I feel a lot of people have. And this is more so in terms of style. It's not necessary that you do it this way, but do you notice how this girl's hair, right, there's the main shape, but then there's all these little flyaways that are happening, right? All these little flyaways. Of course, you don't want to make them look like this, right? That might be a little bit weird, but just a little bit on the edges. Adding a little bit of noise on the edges is always really nice. I like to add that stuff in. At the very end, usually. Very, very end is where I like to add that stuff in. But it's very simple to achieve that effect. You just grab whatever color is here, right, on the edge, and then you'll just kind of add those little things in. Little tiny things in. Now, again, same thing. Stay away from doing repeating shapes, right? You don't want them to all look exactly the same. You want a few strands that are clumped up together, a few small ones, kind of a larger one. See, like that. Now, once you do that, you're getting a very natural look. Love that. Awesome, huh? Looking good. Large ones, small ones. Cool, huh? See how just doing that allows us to have a bit more, it just looks more realistic to have that noise on the edge of the hair. Okay? We like that stuff. All right. This is actually going really well. I'm really happy with how this tutorial is going. For not knowing much about hair, or at least this much about hair, I feel like this is going quite well. Quite well. Now I'm taking some more darkness and I'm adding it in here towards the edges, right? Just because I feel like it. I don't really have a reason. I'm just kind of going, and I hopefully can teach you as I'm drawing this in. It is so dang hard. The one thing that I have learned about this is it is hard to draw and like study something and at the same time describe what's going on in your mind. Same time describe exactly like why you're doing something because you don't even know exactly why you're doing it. You know what I mean? So anyway, forgive me if I am babbling or stumbling, stuttering more than usual. You know why now. Okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. I like that stuff. I want to make this highlight even more crazy right there. That looks awesome. Let's get in here and let's put in some more noise. Okay, guys. So we're going to go ahead and go to the back of the hair. And this is the same thing that I've taught you guys before. Now that you've got your colors in there, now I want you guys to go in there and begin adding a little bit of noise. You're going to get a little noisy in here. Okay? A little noisy. And transition like that. That looks good. Have a couple strands. Like notice how, specifically what I'm looking at is notice how there's a couple strands where the values kind of carry up. They carry up towards the edge, carry up into the hair. There's a few certain strands that do that. And that is what I'm going to reflect right here. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to bring that right up into there. There's another strand that goes right through there. And then like a strand that goes through there. Okay, cool. And then similarly, right, get in there. Get in there and add some of that noise. Right, because hair is not perfect. Hair is not perfect. Keep in mind your edges, right? Keep the edges clean. But don't be afraid to get in there and add some extra strands sticking off. And there's all kinds of hairbrushes. Some of you might be asking, oh, I probably could have done this a lot quicker with a hairbrush. Maybe true. Maybe true. In fact, if you do have a hairbrush, I think I've used it a few times and I've had good results. But to be honest, I like to try to figure textures out by drawing it by hand first. I like to figure this stuff out, that way I can learn. And then later on, when I use a texture brush, I can say, okay, this is a good start. But I remember, there's just certain things that brushes can't replicate perfectly, right? That a human hand can, right? All those tiny little changes, the tiny little changes, especially in the large, medium, small area, right? The large, medium, small technique. Some brushes just don't have that down. Some do, but, or maybe I'm just not using the best brushes, but I was always a fan of finding a nice brush that you like. And in this case, I like to use the chalk brush, right? That's this one here. Looks kind of like, if you make it bigger, it looks like, I don't know, what is that? Like a deformed Bulbasaur. Yeah, it looks like that, and I just love the texture that this has. Yet, you can make it small and like create lines with it. Just a really versatile brush, so I use that a lot. And if you're curious about getting it, then you can download it at my DeviantArt. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then the link is in the description. You can download these. Try them out for yourself. Try them out for yourself. I think we're going a little bit long today, but that's okay because I kind of really wanted to drive this home. Really wanted to drive this home. And I'm having such a good time. I love doing this stuff with you guys. I love studying. I love teaching you guys. I hope you guys are getting some good value out of this, as much as I am, man. The teacher learns the most, as I have heard in the past, and that is true. That is absolutely true. Okay, let's not forget about this really cool little strand of hair that comes down like this and catches that light. It's one of my favorite things about this photo. Got a little bit of that in there. Cool, huh? Just adding in that value right there. Little tiny changes. Love that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and finish this puppy off. Yeah, looking very good. Is there anything else? Okay. So also, right in here, we also have some desaturation happening. Right? I'm just going to grab this color right down here. I just saw it. I'm like, that is the color that I need. And again, you can go in here, kind of lay in some like light values first, and then go through and then kind of break it up. Break it up with those tinier little strokes. It's like there's some saturation happening in here. A little bit more saturation as well. Interesting. I love all the tiny differences in values and saturations that are actually happening in this hair. Very, very fun to study. Highly recommend you guys do this for yourselves. Yeah. Very cool. All right. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty dang good. I feel like there was one more thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about before we end today. Although I totally spaced it. Totally spaced it. In the meantime, though, we can definitely cast some question catapults. And I'm not going to mute myself this time. Last time I totally effed it up. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. We got questions coming in from the IMSI, and this one is coming in from Wizard. The Age of an Industry. And Wizard writes, I feel this might fall in the lines of being a really stupid question. There are no such thing as stupid questions. In fact, I love stupid questions. So, I have been drawing since I can remember. I always wanted to get into the entertainment business. Art, illustration. Somehow I got sucked into a ton of different things. I know how that is. And I'm 33 now, just getting back on track. And I actually, back on track with what I actually want to do. Do you have any, have you seen any opposition or struggle for older artists trying to get into the industry? Or is it truly skill and strong work ethic? The currency of the land. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that quote. The currency of the land. Yes, absolutely. Skill and your ability to actually do stuff, Wizard, is going to be really what gets you the job or gets you, like, anybody. It doesn't really matter your age. What matters, though, is the time that you put into it. And that is basically kind of the good and bad, right? That's the good news and the bad news. Yes, you have been distracted by things in your life. You've gone out and you've defended the country, you've defended your family, and I'm thankful for that because I get to make a show because brave people like you are willing to stick your neck out for us, right? So I really do appreciate that. But also, so now you want to get back into art, but you feel like you're behind. And that's the freaking, that irks me so much to hear people say that. It's like, oh man, I'm like 33, and like this guy that's like 19 is like already, he's like a prodigy, right? He's already worked, like Blizzard wants him, Riot wants him, Pokemon Go wants him, everybody wants this artist, and I just feel like I'm so behind. And you get caught up in this game of comparing yourself to others. And I know that's really easy to do because it's like you can take a look at your art and look at somebody else's, and anybody can be an art critic. You can say like that is worse or that is better than this piece over here. But the reasons maybe, that's kind of more of a gray area. But I really want to stress that you're not behind. You're not behind necessarily because, do you think Riot Games or Blizzard Entertainment cares how old you are? No, they don't care how old you are. They care what you can do. They care how freaking good you are. They care how much time you put into your work and the style that you bring and the unique flavor or something that you can do that other artists can't. It's not all about that, but you want to make sure you master your fundamentals, but also have something very, very special that only you can do. And that's really what makes you valuable as an artist. And it doesn't always have to be something necessarily just with art, right? I've decided to start a show freaking 5 years ago. And just because I've talked for 5 years, I have developed the ability to speak a lot more, a little bit more delicately and eloquently than I used to, right? And I'm still it's interesting because I could totally go into that, like a whole story about that, but maybe I'll save that for another time. Basically, to sum it all up, is that I still get nervous. I still am a little bit nervous when I'm talking on the show or getting ready to do a show, especially when I'm teaching something that I've never done before. But really, the important thing that you understand, Wizard, is that it's going to take time. It is going to take time. If you have put it somewhere else, then it's time to put it back into, right, what you want to do. And you will get there. You will get there, but it takes years. It takes a long time. You got to be willing to invest that. You got to invest that time. Hopefully what I'm teaching you can save you a little bit of time. Hopefully what I'm teaching you, other artists, right? I'm not the only teacher. Learn from other people. Learn from other artists. Learn from people that are better than me. Learn from people that are better than you. And there's plenty of people out there that are better than the best artists out there. Okay? But that's what I'm getting at, is learn from people. That's probably the best way that I found to be able to quickly excel at something, is find somebody who knows how to do something better than you and ask them, hey, how the heck are you doing that? Please teach me, right? That's why I go to the gym and I have a personal trainer because I don't know what the heck I'm doing at the gym. And let's face it, I wouldn't have the motivation to actually get my butt up and actually go work out anyway. But I want to stay in relatively good shape because most of the time I'm sitting here with my tablet, right? This is my best friend. And when I'm not on the tablet, I'm sitting down playing Dark Souls 3, trying to become the best PvPer in the world, right? Right next to Praise the Sun, of course. But yeah, it's, I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, but the time, right? It's all about time. Age does not matter. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. You can start it today. Don't fall into that trap of feeling like you're behind. You're not better than somebody, or you're not as good as somebody. It's really all about your journey, right? That's what I wanted to focus on telling you today, Wizard. And I hope you take that and you have some fun with it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and end today's show. But before we go, I want to say that, oh wait, do I do this first? No, I do my sponsors first because they are amazing. Laura Bashir, David Curry, hello. Matthias Silva, Ilian the Cat, Megan Gwynn, and Ian Crowell. Thank you so much to my amazing sponsors. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. You keep the lights running at night. You make me so happy. As well as thank you to my sponsors of the past. If you would like to sponsor the show, get a little animated avatar of yourself made, and or download today's PSD, then that is all going to be available on the Patreon. You can click right here or in the description to go there and download not only today's PSD, but all the other PSDs from the past. You guys go have fun with that. All right. I know today was a longer episode. Hope you guys don't mind. Hope you guys got some good value out of this. Learn some good things. Go out there. Go to google.com. Download some videos. Also, oh, yeah. Or not videos. Pictures. Another good place that I found to get good reference pictures is sites like AmericanApparel.com or just any sort of clothing site. They have a lot of nice high-res pictures, and you can either find a way to right-click, save as, or you can kind of basically download the code. I can't really do a tutorial on that exactly because most of the time it's just kind of a luck of the draw. But figure out a way to get those pictures. Clothing sites I found are very good. Google.com is okay. Sometimes you want to go for high-res. That's what we're going for. But or you can just use this one. You can just download this one on Patreon. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end it, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me on YouTube. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Kienan Lafferty. I'll see you guys next week. And until then, you guys take care. See ya.